Oh boy, we got a good one here on Marvel Movie News today. There's news about Hawkeye, there's news about SpiderVerse 2, and I get to nerd out about Ant-Man, because Ant-Man 3 is back on the table. Let's talk Ant-Man and the Wasp story ideas and a whole bunch more today on Marvel Movie News.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk, we talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Marvel Movie News.
Hey, good afternoon to you, our merry Marvelites. Welcome back to Marvel Movie News. We are coming to you live from Pym's laboratory because there's Ant-Man news, you guys. Ant-Man news.
I immediately thought of you when I saw it, and then I think like seconds after I saw it, you sent the group text to us in all capitals being like, it's Ant-Man 3, you guys!
Well, it was a great, 30 minutes of span where I was like, oh, nice, they confirmed Ant-Man, or semi-confirmed Ant-Man 3 is happening. And then I'm looking at Twitter, and it's as I'm looking at Ant-Man news, boop, SpiderVerse 2 officially posts its date as coming out in 2022.
2022.
It was so exciting. One of my favorite movies of last year. It's I want to say it's my favorite because it's one of my favorite movies of all time, but then last year was so crowded.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But it was also on my birthday.
Oh, well, then you have to choose it as your favorite now.
It was no. I mean, Friday.
Oh, that the news came out.
When they broke the announcements
of...
It was hey, Marvel's just oh, hey, Zach, Ant-Man, SpiderVerse, here you go. Happy birthday. It was great. Thank you.
That's a good birthday present.
It was. Thank you for Disney for thinking of me. And Sony. They were competing for my love. Anyway, let's get into the show. Who are we? I'm Zach Wilson.
Oh, yeah.
Xia Anderson.
Yeah.
And I'm Christian Bladt. How are you?
I have my rival to the anti-voice of doom, Mr. Fantastic Ryan, in the booth with us today.
Yes, so excited to be here, y'all.
Oh, is he back with us this week?
Oh.
Ryan.
Ryan, you're
thanks
never,
so much for taking the time to do this show.
Well, that's why he's Mr. Fantastic. He's tall and lanky, but he
flakes.
Sometimes he flakes and he doesn't know what's good for him.
Ryan, you're never going to
Says
live this
doom.
one down. Never.
Anyway,
shoot.
Let's get started on the show. Also, thank you to Colpado, who's helping us on Twitter from the Star Jammer. Let's jump into SpiderVerse 2 news first, you guys.
Let's do it.
We already started talking about this, but so last Friday, last Thursday actually, after we had gone off the air, they teased something happening, but there wasn't any news yet. They just said stay tuned. Basically, I forget what the exact tweet was, but they were teasing that something your height senses should be heightened.
Stay tuned. We're gonna release some nonsense, not big news. We all knew.
Then the next day, they released a very simple but official date confirming SpiderVerse 2 as happening on April 8th, 2022.
We only have 2 years to wait.
I imagine that this date had to be chosen. Maybe they were waiting until they could confirm the date for Spider-Man 3.
Okay.
For the
I think that would make sense.
the home trilogy.
The live-action Spider-Man film, yes.
Because Disney was reportedly very unhappy with how close Spider-Verse 1 was to Far From Home.
I mean, I get it. I get spacing them out because you need to have a little bit of a break in between. I don't see people not going to see either one if they're really close to each other, but I do see wanting to space it out.
So it's, I agree that that's probably part of the reason. Is completely hypothetically, do you think that means that the live action Spider-Man will be in 2023 or maybe way at the end of 2022? Because I think you're right.
Well, we're getting it in 2021.
Oh, I missed that part. All right.
Spider-Man 3 coming in July 2021.
Right. I'm already planning Spider-Man 4. That's my mistake. Sorry.
Where's the next one?
Yeah.
Spider-Man 3 Home for Hanukkah, not the official title, is coming July 2021, and then April 2022, you're going to get your Spider-Verse 2.
I think that's good. I think that's perfect spacing.
So, you've got 9 months between them. I think that's a good break.
Yeah.
Look, we can always, no one's going to be arguing about too much Spider-Man, except maybe Disney, because they're worried about oversaturation of the character. Look, when movie tickets are average $15 in the country, you gotta space these things out, because even if somebody's only seeing Spider-Man stuff, it becomes a lot.
It does, and especially if you have a family with kids. That's $15 per. Or what are kids' tickets? $10. I mean, regardless, that's a lot of tickets to have to get. Yeah, if you have a couple. But
you don't want to be doing a Spider-Man movie every year,
right?
Because it's the lesson that Star Wars learned, is that much will overtax your audience, and you'll start to lose people.
I can see that, yeah.
So it's risky. It's risky, is all I'm saying.
It is kind of cool though with the Spider-Man. It's the same Spider-Man, but it is different characters. That is cool that you're getting both. And also, I mean, animated films take so long to make because it is so much work goes into it.
This is about as fast as I think we could have expected a sequel to happen. We do have some details about this, like very, very little pulling from things. One thing that's really interesting and it makes me a little bit nervous about Spider-Verse 2 is it has a completely new creative team behind it. Now, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who wrote and co-directed along with Rodney Rothman the original, the first one. Phil Lord and Chris Miller will be producing, so they are still involved very intimately. But it's similarly to how they produced the Lego Movie 2 to a which did not perform nearly as well as the Lego Movie. I never even saw it. The trailers didn't interest me, but I love the Lego Movie 1.
So that's and a lot of it didn't perform as well.
But exactly, and that's the thing. So there is some concern there. Who is this new creative team? You might say we've reported on a couple of this beforehand, but it is going to be directed by Joaquim dos Santos, who is a director. He has worked on Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Legend of Korra.
Wait, the cartoon?
The cartoon.
Oh, okay. I was like,
no, M. Night Shyamalan directed that. No.
That's right.
He's an animation director who has worked
so much
on Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Legend of Korra. He also directed a couple of DC movies, like animated movies, including Superman / Shazam: The Return of Black Adam.
Oh, okay.
So he has experience in animation and especially high octane action packed animation. So I see that, and writing the script is David Callahan, who has written a whole bunch of things. He's on the writing team for Wonder Woman 1984, as well as Shang-Chi, Legend of the Ten Rings.
This guy's all over the place. DC, Marvel, he's doing everything.
Yeah. So
you know what? I have faith in this team, and I'm mostly saying that because I just love the Avatar: The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra so much I'm fine with this.
That's the thing. It's not that these people are not as good or not good at making content.
Just different.
I do want the original. The creative team from the first one gave us such good stuff. Right. I just hope that it can continue in that same vein. I want the heart that came with it, the clear love for Spider-Man and everything that Spider-Man can be that we got in Into the Spider-Verse. It's why I love that movie. What do you guys think? Do you think that we're going to get a sequel on par with the original?
I think we will, because look, that first movie is so good. Nobody's going to come in and be like, you know what we're going to do is we're going to take all the stuff that worked and throw it out, and let's see what we could do that's completely different. Yeah. So I think that there's a great blueprint for what this movie will be. There's so many characters to visit with, and of course new characters that we haven't gotten to see. And
we have some news about that in a second.
We do. So I think that I'm sure that they're really excited to we're going to get to play in this really cool, well-designed sandbox that, made a ton of money. Great. We're not going to mess it up. Yeah. That's the way I feel.
Yeah, and I also think that along with that, just because you have the same creative team and the same writing team doesn't necessarily mean that the second one is going to be good. There's been many times when you come out with a great first product and then the second one falls flat, and it's just you're like, oh, this just isn't as good as the first one. And I think you're right. It's like having a fresh set of eyes in there to be like, oh, I loved what we saw with this. Now let's take that and let's do this with it. But while still sort of staying true to what the first one was. Yeah. I think that hopefully that's what we're going to get.
Yeah, Lord and Miller are still around, and if you start veering off a little too far, they'll be like, hey, how about this or that? I'm sure they won't be too hands-on, but if it were to start to get too far away from that vision, I'm sure that they would help steer it back.
Yeah. I think we could. I mean, look at Deadpool 2, where you lost your director to difference of opinion and stuff, but when they put out the sequel, it was great.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I would put it in a lot of ways pretty much on par with Deadpool 1. people will have preferences over the two, but they're both great. They're both fun, and they have different vibes while still being consistent. So,
could I throw one thing out there, though?
Yeah, please.
I don't want to sound like I'm poo-pooing this.
Ryan
in the booth, yeah. I just feel like with that first Spider-Verse movie, it's just so many incredible creative things going on. But one of them was like the character Miles Morales as like a half black, half Hispanic character in New York, like becoming Spider-Man. I felt like that element of the story was so essential to why that movie works so well, and I'm a little worried that maybe that won't carry over to this next film.
Well, you do have a Portuguese-born director for this one, so you do have somebody who can speak to like Miles's side of this experience to a certain degree. Look, I'm not going to be able to be the person to comment on how well that's achieved.
I don't know that any of us can that are here on this panel or in the booth. But what I would say is, look, I mean, the first movie is a Miles Morales movie that happens to include all those other characters. I can't see why this wouldn't be the same. And I'm sure that they're very cognizant of what worked so well about Miles in that movie and making sure that they bring that to just continuing the story.
Well, yeah, and people really love Miles Morales, not just from Spider-Verse, but even from the comics. I've gotten like numerous fans and people being like, they really love that character. So I kind of just assumed that it was still going to be Miles Morales. I
don't think that anyone is challenged that it's going to be Miles's movie still. Look, Spider-Gwen, like Gwen Stacy is going to break off into her own
but that's going to be a separate thing.
And I think she's still going to be in this one. Spider-Women has been confirmed to be in development. No date has been given, but it is happening. I would be shocked if they didn't get Peter B. Parker back for this one. This was something I was going to talk about anyways. Like, who are we going to get back? And this is one of the dangers: is you do want it to be Miles' story. You want to expand the idea of an infinite number of Spider people, but you don't want to lose Miles in that. And that's going to be one of the dangers. Is the temptation is to blow out this Spider-Verse, and like bring in so many different people. So let's see who are we going to have? Sorry, Xia.
No, I was just going to say, I think the other problem with that, too, is that we got his origin story, so now they're not telling his story anymore. It's going to have to be based, you're right, it's going to have to be based around him without wanting to expand too much.
I think you can do that as long as you focus on Miles for like the first act, the way that Spider-Verse did, where it's really just about him, and then you bring in Peter, and then it's still about him. Even when everyone else gets involved, he's the thread, and Miles needs to stay the thread here.
He's still going to anchor the movie, and it's going to be his point of view of all these other Spider characters that he's interacting with. You know, they're not going to really like, okay, and then this middle part of the movie is going to be about, some of the other ones.
But let's look at who else is going to be there, because we're not just going to get I would be shocked if we didn't get at least the original set of characters back in some way, so that you get Spider-Ham, you get Spider-Man Noir, because like you're going to want to bring Nick Cage back in. You get Penny Parker.
And don't forget the teaser, the post-credit scene in the original. Of course, we're going to get Spider-Man 2099.
I was building up to it. All right, you skipped over the best Spider-Man, Spider-Ham, sir.
You said him already.
You said Spider-Ham.
Did I? Well, he deserves to be mentioned twice.
He deserves his own movie.
Spider-Ham.
His own series, really. I love Spider-Ham.
I think I said Spider-Ham. Either way.
You definitely did.
I said Penny Parker, but I didn't say Peter Porker.
No, you did.
said Spider-Ham.
You didn't say Peter Porker.
Either. Chat, back me up here. Anyway. Yes, we are going to get Spider-Man 2099, played by Oscar Isaac, who we revealed in the end. And we just found out via Twitter, thanks to Phil Lord, another...
That was his sound effect, not one of our phones.
It was a Twitter sound effect.
But it sounded like it was one of our phones.
It really threw me off. Yeah. We are going to get one other Spider character, or at least it looks like we will. Somebody was asking Phil Lord about a promise he had made when Spider-Verse was originally in theaters about Japanese Spider-Man from the 1970s live-action show.
Never seen this.
To which Phil Lord responded, he's designed. So that he doesn't say it's in the movie, but they have designed a version of Takuya Yamashiro Spider-Man. And if you've never heard of the Japanese Spider-Man live-action series, it's crazy, but it's fun. Oh, I'm losing my voice because I'm so excited. It is nothing to do with Peter Parker.
Nothing.
He has like the same basic costume and abilities to a certain extent as Spider-Man, but it's like it's a So like Ryan, if you pull up in those photos that I sent you, we have this is my favorite part about it. The other one first. He has a ship that he flies around in called. And we look at it now, called The Marveler.
Is that made from Legos? Did they actually make that from Legos when they did this?
I think off-brand Legos, not even actual
Built
Legos.
Mega Blocks?
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Made from Mega Blocks. Awesome.
It's a 70s Japanese like monster fighting robot.
Yeah.
Because the Marveler doesn't just fly him around.
Nope.
The Marveler transforms.
Of course it does.
Into, and we can show that now, Leopardon.
Oh my god.
The giant mech robot. It's so good.
Can we please get this? I want to see this
You
now.
want this whole movie.
I've never heard of this ever.
We'll have to watch this after
This was
the show.
this was the Japanese adaptation of Spider-Man from the 70s. And so the Leopardon is like when you start doing SpiderVerse stuff, of all of the extremes, this one is like the silliest and craziest one because it's so out of nowhere. He did become Marvel Comics canon during the original Spider-Verse story because like once you started bringing this, like they had Leopardon come through one of the Spider-Verse portals to aid like the army of spider people. And so like you have this giant robot running around. So please give me that Leopardon in a big movie on the big screen.
The chat is not quite as excited as we are.
What? I want to hear why they're not excited about Leopardon.
Star Drew and Ivan Soto saying basically the same thing. Nah, looks like Power Rangers. And Gamer Girl says Spider-Man meets Transformers. Spider-Man meets Transformers. If that's supposed to be a knock, it's not, because that sounds awesome to me.
It is
love that
100% Spider-Man meets Power Rangers. Like that is exactly what it was in the 70s, and that's what it still is. But it's such an extreme difference of what a Spider-Man can be because it's so out of nowhere that it's the perfect thing to do in this format, where I don't think he's going to be a main character necessarily.
No,
I think maybe it'll only pop up if we like are jumping between universes with the bracelet, that because at the end of the movie, Miguel has developed the ability to control jumping through portals and not becoming unstable once you're there.
Star Drew, first of all, how dare you? Sounds like Xia didn't see Power Rangers either. Do you know who you're talking to? I'm sorry, I had to address that.
Might be talking about the movie.
Absolutely not. I've seen all of the Power Rangers.
Nadim Sheikh says that, fun fact, Japanese Spider-Man is actually what inspired the Power Rangers. So that, and the timeline makes sense, because that's way before Power Rangers.
That's wonderful.
So, yeah, I think...
I'm so sorry,
Look,
Zach.
I think having that many different if you can have a movie that has that, and Penny Parker, and film noir Spider-Man, great. I want all these different sort of represent.
Well,
and Spider-Man too.
Look, there was originally supposed to be an Australian Spider-Man that was to be in the first one.
Oh, that's
I don't know if you guys heard about that.
No, I didn't.
They in one draft of the Into the Spider-Verse screenplay, they had introduced an Australian one who shows up at the very beginning of the movie and dies. Like his cells degenerate. It shows like what happens if you don't get back to your universe in time. And that was supposed to raise the stakes of like, if you're not successful, you're gonna like, if they can't get back in time, this is what happens.
I love that the Australian was the one that they were going to kill, and then they didn't have him at all.
Well, it was because he was running 12 hours earlier. So he was 12 hours ahead. So he died 12 hours before. So it was like a ticking clock on like, this is how long you have. But they decided it was too dark and too early to introduce that as a plot point, so they removed that character. Well, who knows? We might meet an Australian Spider-Man in this one.
Just give us all of them.
But we're gonna get Spider-Man. Spider-Man is coming, and that's all I need. I don't know if you guys are excited, but let us know in the comments below if you're watching After Effects. We already heard from our live chat. I want to hear from you guys later. Just know that we're excited. We're gonna skip over that story, but let's talk about Ant-Man 3, you guys, our lead story for today.
Is that happening?
I'm surprised that you managed to hold off this long.
Because I had Spider-Verse and Leopardon to talk about. You're just giving me all of my favorite things at once. It's like because look, when I did my list of like my top favorite like characters in Marvel, like look, Peter Parker comes at the top of it. I love Ant-Man and the Wasp, and they I think felt 2 and 3, but Peter Parker. He's the best character in like practically all of fiction, let alone just comic book fiction.
I mean, sure.
It's hard to top Peter Parker. I mean, you can make a case about others.
I was going to say,
so
in all
great.
of fiction.
Yeah. Hamlet's better? Okay, stop.
Look,
Harry
I'm not going to
Potter,
say that
you
he
fool.
definitely is.
How dare you?
That's like asking me to pick between my children. But like, which I don't have, so I don't really know what that feels like. But I think Peter Parker might even be like a superior character to Spider-Man. It's a lively debate at the least.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ant-Man 3 is going to happen. It hasn't been officially announced by Disney. Disney's not saying Ant-Man 3 happening this date. But the Hollywood Reporter did put out an article that said that Peyton Reed has been attached to direct Ant-Man 3. So they've started work. And then Michael Douglas, like I think seeing this out in the news was just like, oh yeah, we're shooting that in 2021.
Oh, that's hilarious. I wonder if he got in any trouble for that, because like, we haven't officially announced
it's
anything
Michael
yet.
Douglas. What are you going to do?
I know, but...
You're going to throw Gordon Gekko back in jail? He's fine. Don't worry about Michael Douglas. And this ties into sort of what we were talking about last week when Paul Rudd was on with Howard Stern. He was point blank asked if there was going to be another Ant-Man, and he said, I can't say anything, but you might notice my face is twitching. So he clearly knew what was about to come out, but he wasn't allowed to talk about it yet. So very exciting.
I wonder why they did this, why they held back on that. Did they decide late, or were they like, we're just going to surprise everybody with Ant-Man?
So the rumor so if they're shooting in 2021, and the rumor about when it's going to happen, based on like all the leak about Peyton Reed being hired and everything, is that it would drop in 2022, and Marvel just hasn't announced movies or shows for that year yet.
Okay.
They announced for 2020 and 2021. Which is. People are saying basically this is phase 4 is these 2 years of movies, and phase 5 is going to be 2022 and 2023.
So Ant-Man is just going to be in phase 5, basically.
Yeah, I mean, they also didn't officially announce. Well, they officially announced Black Panther 2, but like they didn't really give us that as like part of these like schedule. And like same thing with Captain Marvel too. Like they're like, we're doing it, but we're not telling you when. The only reason I think that they made sure to put Black Panther's date on the books, like when they didn't even have a title for it, was to be like, we're gonna make it, like right, just so that you guys don't think we're not working on this. We are absolutely working on this, because it was one of their biggest hits, but also one of their Marvel's first like big look. We've put a person of color at the front and center, and it went amazingly well. We're not discounting that. It's just not at that stage yet. But so Ant-Man 3 is in the year that hasn't been announced yet. So Peyton Reed is back to direct again. So whether you want to call this Ant-Man 3 or Ant-Man and the Wasp 2, or like most Marvel movies now, probably not going to just have a number.
Yeah, I would expect
it'll just be Ant-Man and the Wasp,
something or other,
something with
Ant-Man,
a subtitle.
the Wasp, and someone else.
And maybe Stature or Stinger, perhaps. Yes, please. But let's talk about what might be in Ant-Man 3. I have some fun ideas.
I'm not surprised. I want to hear your guys' ideas.
So I talked about my favorite idea for it a couple weeks ago, but I really want to see. And I think it would be really interesting to get Erik OGrady into this, who is the irredeemable Ant-Man, because I think that there is something amazingly perfect in an arc of Scott Lang's story where Erik OGrady comes in and steals the Ant-Man suit from Scott. In the comics, he steals the Ant-Man suit from Hank Pym while he's an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, okay.
But I think it would be perfect if he stole it from Scott. So Scott, as the master burglar, getting robbed. And that's a big plot point for Ant-Man 3.
I think that'd be super fun. And then he has to rely on the Wasp a lot, because then he's essentially sort of lost his not his powers, but his suit.
Well, I think it's more about like what are the dangers of somebody out there, one, robbing a place as Ant-Man. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a classic like Spider-Man story at that point where there's like somebody impersonating him, like doing that stuff. I think that, look, he's got Hank and Janet on his side now. Like, they'll make him a second suit. Like, he'll have another suit, but it becomes this, but it's just like a different Ant-Man, maybe with newer tech so that he's like more advanced stuff. We'll have to see. that could be really fun.
I'd like to see some kind of a spin on Fantastic Voyage, or a more recent movie would be Inner Space, where you have to shrink down and save somebody's body on the inside. And I think it should be one of our heroes. It should be somebody that we really care about, and they have something super obscure, and it's like, well,
microsurgery.
Yeah, so he goes in and does some kind of microsurgery.
Oh, there actually is justification for that in Scott Lang's backstory.
See, I did not know that.
The original Scott Lang story is a 2-part story where Cassie, like the whole reason that he steals the Ant-Man suit is because he needs the money to pay for heart surgery for Cassie Lang.
Oh,
well, there you go.
And that was like in the original stories. You have what's his name from the first movie? I'm blanking out. David Cross is actually a giant pink man who has been murdering homeless people to steal their hearts because his heart is giving out.
Holy crap!
And he like keeps going through them because he's just enormous,
right.
And that's like his whole plot line.
I love that plot line.
And he kidnaps Cassie Lang at one point, and it's like, you have to steal the stuff, and that's when he gets the Ant-Man suit and all that stuff, and begins robbing places.
Question from the chat from Cam A. Egan. Here's the rest of their question. Do you think they'll bring back Lawrence Fishburne as Goliath?
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, certainly they could if the story dictates it. I'd like to see it. I'd also like to see him actually, be Goliath.
I don't think we're going to get that. I'll be honest. I think if he comes back, it'll only be because Ghost is going to be involved in the storyline.
Yeah.
And I think if Ghost is going to be involved, and she very well might be, it'll be because my second big idea. I think Janet Van Dyne either losing control of her powers or needing to go back into the microverse. Because of what it has done to her body.
Like she spent so much time there that she can't be out of the microverse anymore.
Maybe. Or she needs to go back every now and again. So one of the big things they cut from Ant-Man and the Wasp was a whole sequence inside the world that we found her in, because there's a society down there. Those all those creatures, all those things you could see in the background, they're like people, for lack of a better word, in there that are like intelligent beings that she lived among for all those years. If you you get the Ant-Man and the Wasp art book, you can actually see the designs of these things.
Wow.
They just didn't do that whole part because it wasn't really necessary for the story of the movie. But I would be shocked if we didn't go down there for some reason or another. I could see, look, maybe it's that the microverse is being attacked. But so this is another idea. So we saw a bunch of Pym particles get away in the first Ant-Man. And then it's got this little loose thread. It gets away with that Hydra guy. Now, that doesn't Hydra's not really around anymore. But what if AIM gets their hands on it?
I like that.
AIM gets their hands on it. Maybe they accidentally shrink somebody's body but leave their head real big.
Hey, wait a minute.
While they're experimenting on it. I'm just saying, you could justify a MODOK that way.
Whatever it takes to get MODOK, a live action
I was
MODOK.
going to say, live action MODOK.
Yeah. We know we're getting an animated MODOK, but I really want a live action.
Or you just have to be about him. Put him in something.
You just accidentally giant man his head permanently.
Yeah.
And that's why he's floating around on this floating chair thingy.
I like it.
But if AIM is then going in order to get all of this power, going into the microverse and pulling energy out of it, they might be destroying this society that Janet Van Dyne got to know. So they have to go in to defeat AIM in the microverse. And maybe Erik OGrady is working with AIM to do all this. I'm just saying there's a lot of cool ideas floating out there.
I was going to say, what if one of these ideas that you've been talking about actually gets made and you're like, this is what I wanted.
I mean, when you throw enough things against the wall, something's going to stick.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, what if it's exactly what you asked for, Zach?
Thank you. Thank you, Marvel.
Yeah, it's the birthday gift that keeps on giving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun at Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I think that Peyton Reed is going to do a great job with these characters. I'm excited to see Hope and Scott really blossom as a couple.
I wish I had pulled the comment. You might be able to find it on Marvel News Daily. Someone talked about how much they hate Peyton Reed and aren't excited about. Yeah, they were we're not excited about him being a part of this again. They were and I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
I mean, you're entitled here, but that's interesting.
What do you think of Peyton Reed? Look, I think he was up against a very difficult situation in the first Ant-Man. That movie's not great, but he also had next to no time to prep it because he was taking over for Edgar Wright, and that decision is a separate issue. That look, I would so love to see Edgar Wright's Ant-Man, or at least read the script for what he wanted to do.
Absolutely.
But like, look, things don't always work out the way you want them to, and like it wasn't going to fit in the MCU. Well, it happens.
And considering, like you're saying, what he had to work with, I still thought it was good. I still went and enjoyed it, and I laughed, and I had a good time. And I think that if that's all, that's kind of all I'm hoping for with Ant-Man. It's not, it's not going to be as heavy as the other ones.
Now, here's a question for you guys. It's not going to be as heavy. It's going to be seriously. So one thing that I think is we have to get in this. Cassie Lang.
Right? People in the chat were saying that they're, I think it was Langley M. Neely that was disappointed that if the only way to do that would be in flashbacks, and I'm not exactly sure why.
Cassie?
Yeah.
Well, we have her now. She's just older.
Maybe that's why he wanted to see her age into the role. I think is what he wanted.
With the
I
way
don't necessarily need that, but I think now that you've got the also alternate title, because I was about to say you have multiple Ant-Man and Wasp. What if the title is just Ant-Man and the Wasps? Because you've got two of each now. Yeah. You've got Hank Pym and Scott Lang, and you've got Janet Van Dyne and Hope Van Dyne.
Ant-Man's
or Hope Pym. I don't know
Wasps.
which one is actual canon.
Ant-Man.
There you go.
Ant-Man's sounds better.
No, it doesn't.
Come on.
Ant-Men and the Wasps. Or if since Hank can't really do it anymore because like he said he's just physically incapable, but like Ant-Man and the Wasps. If there's just if you just get Janet and Hope flying around as two wasps, my heart. It'd be so good. But I would love to see Cassie Lang suit up as either Stature, because we know that she wants to, and we know that in the comics she absolutely does. Marvel they just announced a new comic series. The new Ant-Man series is going to focus on Scott and Cassie as Ant-Man and Stinger are the two characters that they're going to be.
I would not be at all surprised if they went with that storyline at all, especially if they're writing new comics about it, and it's sort of in line with what they've been doing with more inclusivity, as long as they make it good.
And it could be a thing about like wanting to do what your parents do, and like what is it like when like your kid is trying to do something that you maybe don't want them to be involved in, but it's what they love.
It's incredibly dangerous, and I mean, hello, look at you as a oh my gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? Like influence over your kids, and that's what you're doing, and of course they're going to want to do it, especially if they like look up to you. That's not altogether surprising, but that is definitely something that I feel like parents that are in sort of dangerous professions, they always want something better for their children.
I could totally see this being like the simple version of the story is about an overprotective dad. Because here's the thing. For Scott, he didn't see her grow up. She's still a little girl to him. He didn't see her mature or like become an adult, but she's had to live in the post-Infinity War blip world for 5 years. She grew up. I'm sure she grew up real fast with dealing with all of that and like thinking she lost her dad and then getting him back. It's a lot of emotion. Yeah. So he's like trying to protect her and make her not do this, but she's all about it. And I'll bet Hope is all about it too. I was like, you got to give her a shot. He's like, no, she's in danger. And then Judy Greer comes in. Like, I don't know which side Judy Greer. Judy Greer be like, no, you're not being a superhero.
Senor Nerd wants to know, what do we think of this idea? Ant-Man 3 being the introduction of the Fantastic Four.
How would you do that?
Interesting. Well, I'm curious on the
heading into the microverse, and you feel like Reed Richards could get there maybe from somewhere else, and then maybe you run into them in the microverse. I mean,
Hank knowing Reed Richards, maybe you just meet Reed.
Yeah.
Through Hank, because like we did confirm that Michael Douglas is going to be there. I think that's an obvious one, but like so it could be maybe we just meet Reed.
Yeah, I think that would be a great start.
And that's how you sort of thread them in very slowly, so that you can either jump in from the get-go without having to worry about getting to know the characters, or you need more super scientists. I don't know that I would want to cram in the Fantastic Four this way.
Yeah, I don't think that'd be my favorite introduction for them.
Because I do think you need to do some sort of origin story for them in the MCU. A good
one.
Spider-Man could get away without the origin story.
Well, yeah, that's fine.
I think that whenever you do the Fantastic Four setup, you're going to need to show us how they were brought into existence.
Yeah,
because they didn't
I
do
do
a good
agree.
job of that last time.
No.
So we deserve a good origin story.
It's not even, well, I don't even necessarily want the origin story. I would love if they could do it and then like do it in 5 minutes and then cut to them like where they've been the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, fine.
Because I don't need the movie to be the origin story, but you are going to have to figure out, they can't just have existed since the 60s, or in the background. They're too big.
Yeah.
The way the Fantastic Four work is too big. It's not like Spider-Man who's flying under the radar. So maybe if it's in a very small way, I would say to that. But yeah, while we're talking about movies,
Easter egg, yeah. Sorry,
Easter
no, I was
egg,
just going to
you
say,
say.
Gamer Girl says, or they find the F4 trapped in the microverse maybe as an Easter egg.
Just
Like
a
an
little,
Easter egg, like a little something like
now
that. I like that idea.
I could see if they found the ship in a post-credit sequence.
Right, and it's like, oh, there's nobody in this ship. Well, where are they? You
Or
know?
they find them there, and they just find the lifeless, or not lifeless, but like the passed out bodies of these 60s travelers.
Yeah, something like that. Like,
they're
I wouldn't mind that.
Why is this guy covered in rocks? Black. and we pull them back in for them to like open up into their. So yeah, that I could see if it's something very subtle like that. But it needs to be small. I don't want it to be like a big team up and then
you don't want them stealing this movie from Ant-Man. It's his movie. It's fine if the Wasps.
It's not just his movie.
No.
It's his and her movie.
His name
it's
goes
Ant-Man
first.
and the Wasp.
But it's not Ant-Man, the Wasp, the Fantastic Four, and somebody else we want to throw in there.
Yeah,
too,
and I'm sure that there will be some other MCU characters popping up in this movie somewhere. It's inevitable, the way the Falcon did in the first one. It's just a question of who.
Yeah.
Also, especially because he's now in like a full-on Avenger, like help save the world. Like it's got to come up.
The one that they make fun of the most. Oh, you want to go to space? It's like, yeah.
I mean, I want to go to space too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's keep going. We're talking about movies. The big movie award season has started to kick off. The Oscars are on the table, and Disney has started their push to award season, and Endgame is going to be, it looks like, pushed in a whole bunch of categories this year. They started putting out some posters. They're pushing it for so like basically when we say pushing for, studios have to submit the movies and the actors and the people that they want to be nominated. They have to say. They have to file forms that are saying, we want you to consider these people for awards. That doesn't mean that, and so they've put out those things. They're going to be submitting them for all kinds of the technical stuff: cinematography, costume design, visual effects, directing. They've submitted the Russo brothers for best director. And they've also submitted 13 different actors and actresses for awards. All of them under supporting. Which is an interesting note because basically no one's the lead in that movie.
You can't even argue that Tony's the lead. You know, I mean, it's such an important movie for him, but he's also supporting. But I hope that they submitted Bradley Cooper for Rocket. But yeah, and I mean, obviously, the reason why this push starts now, because the actual Oscars telecast is usually at the end of February, is there's a lot of events that happen. I mean, what was it? A few weeks ago, I talked about something I went to at the Writers Guild with Marcus and McFeely. There's going to be a lot of stuff like that. A lot of Q&As for various guild members, anybody who can vote. So it just depends, and I think that's what Robert Downey Jr. was talking about when he said that he doesn't really want to chase after it.
So that's the interesting thing so these are the actors that Marvel is pushing. So for the Best Supporting Actor category, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Mark Ruffalo, Chris Hemsworth, Jeremy Renner, Josh Brolin, Paul Rudd, and Don Cheadle. I'm really interested that Josh Brolin is on that list.
Yeah.
Because less so for this movie, he didn't have as much emotion to deal with, but in Infinity War, I thought he was like, this was like, between him and the graphics team, they had created such an amazing, powerful emotions from a CGI character in a way that we've seen very few times before.
I think as like Smeagol is a notable time, or not Smeagol, Gollum.
Same thing.
Yeah. Well, Smeagol's before Gollum, but yeah.
They're both. He's both.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, so I think you're right. Absolutely, that was very interesting.
And in the actress category, you've got Scarlett Johansson, Gwyneth Paltrow, Zoe Saldana, Karen Gillan, and Brie Larson all being submitted. So it's a lot of actors for. Look, it's going to be a competitive category. It always is, and like it's. For superhero movies, comic book movies, to get in there is a challenge. It's not that it hasn't been done, and everyone's talking about Joaquin Phoenix as a shoo-in to get nominated for Joker.
Absolutely.
Certainly to get nominated. Yeah.
Not in the same category, though, because he's the lead, which is interesting. But I wonder if that's going to affect Endgame's chances with the acting, if they're like, well, look, this is a different level of comic book, and like, what was Robert Downey Jr. doing?
Yeah, but you're gonna have your old guard Academy voters that are like, I'm putting in one comic book movie and that's it.
Yeah,
I feel like it's not fair to take away from the actors in these movies. You can not like them, but to say that the acting wasn't good or their performances weren't like amazing or great, it's just kind of ridiculous at that point.
I mean, look, Black Panther took a lot of awards last year.
Yeah.
So like, it's there. They took mostly technical stuff, and I think Endgame will get its technical awards.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's not,
a lot of those categories, absolutely. Who do you think of this list may realistically get a nomination?
Robert Downey Jr.
I think he's most likely to get a nomination. I do not think he will win. Not because he wasn't great. It's just the bias against it. He's really the one. In all honesty, that jumps out. As great as everybody that you listed off was, I don't see anybody else getting a nomination.
I agree. Everyone was good in the movie, but only he really had the territory to warrant a nomination like this. Although Robert Downey Jr. has said he is not interested in campaigning for an award, because like, look, there's a lot of things that you have to go out and do meet and greets and
he's done
interviews.
that before. It's been a while since Chaplin, but and it didn't. I don't think it worked out for him, so I don't think he's interested.
I believe which movie was
it? Was for Chaplin.
When was because like
in like the early '90s?
Because like
92,
let's not forget. He was also nominated in the 2000s for a little movie called Tropic Thunder.
Oh yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You forget because it's absurd.
Wow.
But like, if he could get nominated for Tropic Thunder, which don't get me wrong, I love that movie, and I actually do think there is justification for him being nominated for that role.
Agreed.
I think he could absolutely get nominated for his portrayal as Tony Stark in Endgame.
Agreed. Absolutely.
And I really hope that he does. I hope that the Academy like takes a look and is like, look, this is also, the Academy does this, like, it's also a nomination for 10 years of playing Tony Stark.
And playing it amazingly. He made so many people care about a character that not that many people knew who it was or who he was before that. You know what I mean? Like, there's comic book nerds and people that watch the 90s the cartoon in the 90s, but as far as like broad audiences go, not that many people knew who Iron Man was, and you have a ton of fans who became fans because they watched the movies because of Robert Downey Jr.
And I think a lot of people knew Iron Man as like a second tier superhero, but probably a lot of people didn't know, what's the name of the guy in the suit? You know, but
Tony
now it's
Stark,
like you think of Tony first because of Robert Downey Jr.
I do think Scarlett Johansson has an outside shot. I think she did a lot of great work in Endgame. I do think she's sort of put her foot in her mouth a little too much this year, and that might hurt her chances. But I would say, and the fact that there's a Black Widow movie coming, I think actually hurts her chances of getting nominated, because it's weird to be like, I had my big death scene, but I got a movie coming out next year playing the same character.
I still think that they just messed up with that movie, the timing on it. It should have come out before all of this.
Look, you're not wrong, but better late than never.
I agree.
She's more likely to be nominated for Jojo Rabbit, in all honesty. So.
That's true. I did forget about
She's
that.
Fantastic.
She's amazing in Jojo Rabbit.
That.
I highly recommend. If you liked Thor Ragnarok, which is the same, because it's Taika Waititi. It's Taika Waititi, who directed Thor Ragnarok, also directed Jojo Rabbit. Taika Waititi played Korg, the rock monster alien. Now he plays Adolf Hitler. And he does it brilliantly, I will say. It's a fascinating take. He really studied for that role. Highly recommend it, but we're getting off topic.
No, but it
you're right, though. I think Scarlett Johansson maybe
get nominated for that. Yeah.
I don't disagree. Anyway, let's speaking of Endgame, this will be exciting for you guys. If you weren't the type that like rushed out and already bought Endgame on Blu-ray, which to be honest, I think most of you that are listening to this or watching this probably did. But if you didn't and you're planning on buying Disney Plus, good news. Endgame is coming to Disney Plus months earlier than we thought.
Correct.
We had originally thought it was going to be towards the end of the year or even in January when it would jump streaming. But Disney announced yesterday that Endgame will be available on Disney Plus day one. So next Tuesday, November 12th, when Disney Plus drops, it's next week, you guys.
Oh my
right.
God.
Just a few days.
Endgame will be the 8th Marvel movie available on Disney Plus.
I mean, I have it, but still, like
I have it. I can click it on Vudu or Amazon via Movies Anywhere. Click and then I can watch it. But it's still cool.
Yeah, it doesn't
It's still
matter.
very cool that it's there.
It's one more streaming platform that I feel the need to watch something on, so that I can see the little check that you watch this. Because that's some weird OCD collector nonsense.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah, if you're a comic book collector, I think you understand that feeling of well, I've watched this. I own it on a disc, but the streaming thing doesn't know that I've watched it, so I'll watch it here as well.
Oh, I've done that where I've watched stuff because my husband and I have separate accounts, and there's most stuff that we watch together I watch on his, and then if I just watch some random nonsense on mine, but if I start a series with him and then finish it on my own, I have to go through and fast forward through all of the episodes so it shows watched.
That's next level. I've never done that, but I get but I fully understand the feeling behind it.
Yes, thank you, Zach.
All right. So speaking of Disney Plus, there's some Hawkeye news coming through today. Before that, this is important to all of the Disney Plus things. Kevin Feige. So Christian, you read the Disney Feige. You were talking about it on the Daily, Marvel News Daily. So fill us in. Today. What did Kevin Feige say about Disney Plus?
It's fairly simple. He just stated what I think a lot of people expected, that you'll need to watch the Disney Plus shows to keep up with what's going on in the MCU. And he says that, and I'm sure he means it. I also feel like you'll probably be able to see the movies and be okay with missing it. But he's telling you right now, it's do you really want to understand it? You got to watch everything, which for us, those of us here at the desk and everybody in the chat, we were going to do it anyway. But there are probably going to be people that go okay, I guess I should keep up with that stuff.
Well, and also, I think I said this before we filmed Marvel News Daily when we covered that. I think I brought up the point of even if you're not going to watch it, you will have a friend that did watch it and can just fill you in and be oh, that's because of this stuff, and they'll be oh, okay, cool. And so I think regardless whether you want to watch them or not, but if you're a hardcore fan, I think you were going to watch them anyway, and then you can go into the movies knowing everything.
Right. It's probably going to be people who watched The Defenders after giving up on Iron Fist after a couple episodes. You kind of got it. There was stuff that you really didn't know exactly what was going on.
It's fine. Yeah. It's fine.
But and it's something that they hadn't said before. And he also said that the Loki show was going to directly tie into MCU, right?
He did say that. He did say that, and he said that he'd never said that before. So I don't know if we're going to then get Loki in the future of MCU, but
maybe he didn't say that, but I feel like we knew
just
that.
kind of it was implied. He just never confirmed
I feel like it had come out maybe in leaks or whatever.
Right.
But anyway, speaking of other upcoming Disney Plus shows, let's talk about Hawkeye.
Yes.
Because some interesting news. One, this is a quick one, but apparently Kevin Feige in the similar talk was talking about Hawkeye was originally developed to be a movie.
Yes, and we actually also covered that on Marvel News Daily.
Well, we're talking about it here too.
But you had
what
did Feige say about that decision and what made them nervous?
Well, yeah, they were nervous to approach Jeremy Renner to tell him the new because obviously they had already promised him a movie, so they were I don't know how he was going to take it, but apparently he took it really well and was yeah, let's do it. We're going to go for it.
He's been outspoken before about he was frustrated after the first Avengers because he felt he didn't have a lot of acting to do.
Right.
Because he was mostly playing a mind warped zombie in that film. So, but then they beefed up his role for Ultron, and as he goes, he gets to do more emotional stuff. Obviously, in Infinity War and Endgame, he got a lot to do. So I can see why he might have been nervous, but apparently he was totally on board with it. Who might not be on board in multiple ways of the words is Haley Steinfeld. Ooh. Now, we'd previously talked about Haley Steinfeld as as somebody who Disney had supposedly reached out to and offered a contract to play Kate Bishop in the Hawkeye series, which pretty much all but said out loud confirmed for the Disney Plus show.
Right.
They've literally used her comic logo from the Fraction run.
Oh, people have been talking about it like it's fact this whole time.
Kate Bishop is in it. There's no questions, really. But who's going to play Kate Bishop apparently is up in the air because so the rumor is that Haley. So not the rumor first, but what Haley Steinfeld said this week that's at the soft is she was giving an interview and was asked about the Hawkeye series. That's not something that's necessarily happening. We're going to wait and find out, I guess. Now, that could be a very smart and clever diversion because it has not been officially announced and she's not free to talk about it because there's been no official press release. It could also be that she's not going to be in the show. Well,
and there's also, this is standard Hollywood stuff. She could be holding out for more money and trying to see what happens. Yeah. She also, who knows? I mean, when they plan to shoot it, maybe she's doing like Bumblebee 2 and 3 back to back. We don't know what she's obligated to do in the near future.
Well, she did just have her new show on Apple Plus that dropped this week. Dickinson came out on Friday.
Oh yeah,
with Apple Plus, and the rumor is that her contract with Apple may prevent her from taking this job. There may be a non-compete that she's it's the kind of thing where if that show gets renewed, she may have a non-compete while she's working on Dickinson, at least with other streaming platforms. Which would prevent her from working on Hawkeye. It could just be that the timing doesn't work out if it gets picked up for a second season because they haven't officially picked it up. But I imagine Hawkeye is going to be shooting pretty soon, like maybe not this year, but next year or the year after.
Is a good guess,
And if it starts filming next year, Dickinson would probably be in a similar boat. She just may not be able to do it time-wise. Are you guys disappointed?
Yeah, I've only seen her in Bumblebee, but I really liked her, and I just think she embodies the character really well. So yeah, it's definitely a bummer, because having her play that character, I'm going to go into this, I'm going to enjoy her performance. She's a great actress. So after that, you just kind of, if you're like, I don't know what I'm going to get, I don't know who we're going to get. So yeah, definitely disappointed in a small way, but I'm hoping that if they do have to recast, they'll do a good job, because they mostly do.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was looking forward to it. Seemed like really good casting, and again, really based primarily on Bumblebee. But I think I'm not worried about them finding somebody who would be great to play Kate Bishop one way or the other. So it's disappointing, but I'm not like less excited for the show. It's not that level of bad news for me.
Yeah. So exciting stuff so that we can look forward to. Real quick before we sign out, because we're almost out of time, you guys should go check out the trailer for the Marvels podcast that they just released.
Yeah.
This is the Alex Ross and Kurt Busiek story that is about like from a human journalist perspective on all these big Marvel happenings, especially the ones from like the 60s. It's a fantastic comic, and it sounds like it's going to be an amazing podcast to listen to, like audio drama style. I'm so excited. Go check it out.
Also, does it say they're featuring Method Man?
Method Man is the voice of Ben Urich of the Daily Bugle.
What?
So,
That's amazing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So in.
It comes out on November 20th on Stitcher Premium, which you have to pay for.
Yeah.
It'll be available for free on other podcast services sometime next year, not officially announced.
Awesome.
I may sign up for Stitcher Premium finally. I was fine to wait for the Wolverine ones.
Right,
I don't think I can wait for this one. I'm just real pumped to listen to it. We'll just have to wait and see. So check that out soon. Guys, thank you so much for joining us this week on Marvel Moon News. Thank you for letting me nerd the F out about Ant-Man.
Well, we knew it was going to be an Ant-Man Nerd Fest, definitely coming into this one.
So let us know in the comments below what you think Ant-Man 3 should be about or could be about. Did any of our ideas excite you? Do you have your own ideas? Are you nervous about SpiderVerse 2 with all the changes? Are you excited about Leopardon, or do you think we're idiots? No opinion is wrong. Leopardon is cool. But let us know in the comments below or tweet at us. You can find the show at Marvel News PTN. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @ZachWilson. Zia.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Xia_Land. It's spelled XIA_Land.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ, and you can find Xia and I, as we mentioned earlier, every weekday on Popcorn Talk for Marvel News Daily. And you can see from last week, we did a special live version of my personal podcast, the Blattcast, Blattcast 350, yes. And the news on SpiderVerse and Ant-Man broke while we were doing the show live, so we were very excited. But you can find that at blattcast.com, BLADTCAST.com.
This has been Marvel Movie News. Be sure to rate, like, subscribe, all that stuff that you hear everyone on the internet asking you to do. It's really helpful. It actually is. It seriously is
super
helpful. Until next time, guys, this has been Marvel Movie News. Excelsior!
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network. From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.